Okay, welcome. Today I wanted to offer some reflections about the challenge of making mistakes. And I want to talk a little bit about, what we can do. Maybe we make mistakes, especially over the holiday period coming up. Christmas is just around the corner. So, make some reflections about that. Okay, so last week I was out shopping and I went to look for my wallet and it wasn't there. And it was like, oh. And I just paid for something. So I went back to the shop. I said, is it here? And they said, no. And I walked the path and it was only 50 meters. And I couldn't find my wallet. And I was like, and it's kind of interesting, this thing of making mistakes. And I see that one of the ways, Nick Duffel talks about the three ways that the survival personality, conforming, rebel, and the crushed. And I'm very much the conformist. And within that is like trying to do everything right, not make mistakes. For me, the conformist is like, right, okay, and all the time at boarding school I didn't get in detention, so I was always on high alert all the time, as Peter Levine talks about in his books about hypervigilance. That's one of the kind of the benchmarks of trauma, is you're hypervigilant. So on last week it was like, oh, I've lost it. So it was just interesting as I wandered around town trying to find it, it was like just noticing the mind, and it was like, oh. And so what I found really helped me was just the breath, just breathing. And also noticing how the mind in that instance wanted to blame. So it was like, oh, I thought maybe someone had stolen it. So I was like, oh. Okay, that made me feel a little bit better. That, okay, someone's possibly stolen it. But then when I actually realised that no one had stolen it, I dropped it. It kind of fallen out of my pocket. It was like, oh, I've made a huge mistake here. And there was this, quite a heavy feeling with it. And I feel that, it came up again yesterday because I received a message from someone who I had basically been out of integrity with. I'd done something and they felt they pointed this out to me, and it was again, oh, that's quite quite a big thing. And again, it was that feeling of, messed up. What I would have done in the past is I would have gone into, I'm a failure. That was my big story. Post school, in school, I'm a failure. I'm no good. I'm not good enough. And I would have given up. If, for example, it was business-wise, I would have just quit what I was doing and I would have started something else because I was frightened of really feeling into that. So what I noticed yesterday when I received this email is just to feel it, and I got my guitar out, just did a bit of singing and tears flowing. And it might be that you do a bit of creativity. It might be you paint. I did also some drawing today, and getting a pencil or a pen, and you're feeling these feelings and just really kind of, and using both hands, that stimulates both sides of the brain. So you're not just using your analytical, you're using your intuitive side as well. So it's kind of both sides of the brain. And I found again some more tears allowed to come up. So I think that, this, it's almost like boarding school taught me that I couldn't make mistakes. It wasn't okay to make mistakes. But actually, this is part of being human, and I've been listening to a guy called Robert Johnson recently, and he's been sharing that, we want to make as many mistakes as possible. In publishing my book, I know that, I'm going to make lots of mistakes, but that's it. I have to do that. I have to make those mistakes in order to get the book out there. I might offend people. I might, it's not my intention. My intention is to bring healing. So it's to come back. What's my intention? Okay, what's my intention here? Yeah, so I think the other thing with criticism or someone, making mistakes, especially if that comes from a partner, say it's Christmas time, is noticing that the criticism, we've got this shell up, especially if you've had trauma. The criticism often goes through the shell and into our inner being, and it's almost like, it hurts. And therefore what we can do, because it's like oh, ow, we attack, we react, we go, and it's, if to the person who said the thing, they might have done it unconsciously. They might have just been having a rough day. But, you know, because of what we're storing in here, it's like, right, we can end up putting a lot of anger or energy out to them, and it can be quite overwhelming to them. So what, as I did last week, is invite the breath in. It's like feeling, oh, that really hurts. And, as if you've seen my videos, I use the tapping, because that taps into the amygdala, the fight or flight part, the reptilian part of the brain. So I just tap. It's like, oh, okay. Right, this hurts. It hurts to feel this. And so it's kind of really meeting that part, and whether the tears come up, it's like, okay. The other thing is, if we want to fight back, just stop, because what happens is that just escalates. And if we can just hold back and just go, oh yeah, okay, yeah, maybe they're right. Maybe what they're saying, it's just like what I often say in my work with my clients is, it's like an iceberg. Somebody says something, it's just the tip of the iceberg, but it really hurts because it's not the first time it's happened. There's all of the iceberg underneath, and therefore it's just to be aware. I'll breathe. It's not really to do with what they've said, so if I can just hold back, and it might be a few hours, a couple of days, but then it passes. And I was listening to a documentary with Stanislav Grof, who is a psychologist, quite well known in the US. And he was saying that often with an emotion, if we can just feel it and we allow it to peak, then that's the death of it. But often we suppress. It's like, no, I don't want to go there, don't want to go there. But he's saying if we allow it up, we feel it, we allow the tears up, we grieve, boom, then we can let it pass again. And the other thing is just softening, allowing your heart to soften. So it's like, okay, yeah, I'm just softening now, softening my heart, because that's what happens when we feel into what the pain is, then it opens our hearts. Joy Chavarin talks about this. The other side of grief is the joy. So it's like we need to feel into that. So those are some of the challenges of making mistakes, and just some of the things we can do about it. So final bit is, wishing you all an amazing Christmas period. I won't do a video next week, but I've got a podcast in an hour with a head teacher of a school in South Africa, and this head teacher used to be a teacher at boarding schools, and we're talking about duty of care, how so many of these schools, it's always been the institution comes first rather than the child, and what he's suggesting is actually it's important for us to put the child first, then these problems with sexual abuse and other problems don't kind of slip through the net. It's like, are we there to really help the child? So that's up in an hour, and I'll put that live for Friday. So have a wonderful Christmas and New Year, and I will post another video in a couple of weeks. Thank you so much for your support. Really couldn't do this without you. Really appreciate you doing this work, listening, changing, healing, and really appreciate you. It's like, thank you for your messages that you've sent me this year and your comments, and it means a lot. So thank you. Take care.